Welcome back to Silent Husband Club. We know it's been a while since our last story, but from now on we'll do our best to bring you new stories every single day. What would you do if, on the day meant to celebrate your life, the person you trusted most chose someone else over you? A birthday turned into betrayal, and the first crack in a marriage revealed something far darker than I ever imagined. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps you never miss the next one. I woke up on October 15th to the sharp buzz of my alarm clock. 36 years old that morning, yet instead of warmth, I felt the cold emptiness beside me. The sheets were untouched. My wife, Claire, was already gone. The smell of coffee drifted upstairs, promising a normal, peaceful start. A birthday morning should feel special. Mine felt unsettled. I padded downstairs, following the aroma to the kitchen. There she was, standing in the robe I'd given her last Christmas, her auburn hair tied back loosely, eyes fixed on her phone. "Morning, birthday boy," she said flatly, without even turning. I wrapped my arms around her waist, waiting for her usual soft lean into me. Instead, she stiffened and stepped aside. That tiny gesture, barely a breath of rejection, cut deeper than it should have. She poured me my favorite blend, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I asked if she was all right, but she brushed it off with the old excuse, work stress. October always kept her busy with reports at the accounting firm. I tried to believe her, but my gut twisted when her phone buzzed and she snatched it up quickly, typing fast, hiding the screen. "A work email," she said. I nodded, though a small voice inside me whispered that something wasn't right. To lighten the moment, I suggested we celebrate with dinner at that new Italian restaurant downtown. For a moment, I thought I saw relief in her expression until it vanished. Her smile faltered. "Actually, about tonight," she muttered, suddenly interested in polishing an already spotless coffee maker. My birthday dinner, the one I'd been quietly looking forward to all week, was already gone. She said she had a meeting with David Morgan, her old boss. The name struck me like a fist. I remembered him too well, tall, silver hair, the kind of man who walked into a room and made everyone shrink a little. She had once worked under him at his construction company and had always spoken about him with too much admiration. Now, on my birthday, she wanted to meet him instead of me. She insisted it was business, that he had a consulting offer too good to refuse. She placed her hand against my chest and swore it was only about opportunity, about finally being able to buy the house we dreamed of. The rational side of me understood. Money, security, a better future, it all sounded logical. But deep down, I caught something in her voice when she said his name. A softness. A spark I hadn't seen from her in months. She promised she'd be back by 10. Promised we'd celebrate later. I forced myself to nod. Forced myself to swallow the bitterness that rose in my throat. She smiled with relief, kissed me on the cheek, and hurried upstairs to dress. I stood alone in the kitchen, staring at the black coffee in my cup. It had never tasted so bitter. That afternoon I found myself at a small neighborhood pub with my two closest friends, Tom and Jack. I tried to drown the unease with beer, pretending to laugh at their jokes, but every sip only seemed to thicken the knot in my chest. They both knew something was wrong, and it didn't take long before the truth spilled out of me. Tom, ever the sharp-eyed private investigator, leaned back in his chair and shook his head. "She bailed on your birthday for a meeting with her old boss. That's cold, man." Jack, with his usual blunt humor, laughed bitterly. "Career-focused is one thing. Choosing him over you? That's something else entirely." I wanted to defend her, to believe that Claire was telling me the truth, but the words faltered on my lips. When had she last put me first? I couldn't remember. Anniversaries postponed. Celebrations missed. Always some excuse, some crisis at work. I sat there in silence, torn between loyalty and suspicion, until Jack froze mid-sentence, staring out the window. "Don't turn around, Mike," he whispered. "But isn't that your wife?" My heart slammed in my chest. Against my better judgment, I turned. Across the street, in the candlelit corner of the very Italian restaurant she had suggested for our dinner, sat Claire. And beside her, David Morgan. The man she claimed she had to meet for business. There was no mistaking it, the way she leaned toward him, the way her hand brushed against his as though it belonged there. My stomach dropped as I watched him lift her hand to his lips, kissing it softly. Her smile in that moment was brighter, more radiant than anything she'd given me in months. The sight hollowed me out. It wasn't the professional enthusiasm of a consultant. It was intimacy. Familiar. Practiced. The kind of closeness that doesn't bloom overnight. "Maybe it really is just business," Jack murmured, almost to himself, though even he didn't sound convinced. Tom, however, slammed his hand against the table. "Business? My foot. That's an affair, and it's right there in front of you." I couldn't breathe. I pushed back my chair and stumbled outside, my friends following quickly. The night air was sharp, biting, but it did nothing to clear my head. From across the street, we watched them laugh, whisper, touch, two silhouettes basking in a glow that should have been mine. Every moment, every gesture shredded what little hope I had clung to that morning. David paid the bill, and they stood. She looked, alive in a way she hadn't with me for months. His hand rested easily on the small of her back as he guided her outside, like it was the most natural thing in the world. My stomach churned. I wanted to storm across the street, drag them into the open, demand the truth. But Tom gripped my arm. "Not now. You're emotional, you don't have all the facts. Let's see where this goes." So, like cowards or maybe like hunters, we followed. David's sleek black BMW slid through the streets with a confidence that mocked me. We trailed him to the wealthy part of town, where houses were bigger than anything I'd ever dreamed of affording. And then, there it was. His house. Modern, perfect, glowing with wealth. I watched as Claire stepped out of his car without hesitation, without shame, and walked through that front door as if she belonged there. In that moment, something inside me cracked. I whispered, "I've seen enough." But the truth was, I hadn't. I had only seen the beginning. That night I sat alone in the darkness of my living room, staring at the framed photographs on the mantelpiece. Claire laughing on our wedding day. Claire on the beach during our honeymoon. Claire smiling at me over a birthday cake just last year. Every image looked like proof of a life built on love, yet now each one mocked me. Had it all been a lie? The question tore at me until I felt hollow inside. When her text arrived, meeting running late, don't wait up, happy birthday sweetheart, I read it again and again, as though the words might change if I stared long enough. But they didn't. She was across town, in another man's house, while I sat alone on the day meant to celebrate my life. I barely slept. By the time I heard her car pull into the driveway at dawn, I had already decided to pretend I was asleep. She slipped into bed beside me, the scent of unfamiliar cologne clinging to her skin, and I forced my breathing to remain steady. When the alarm finally rang, she was gone again, leaving only a note on the counter, "Gone for a run. Love you." The words felt like poison. When she returned, her cheeks were flushed from exercise, her tone bright, almost cheerful. She kissed my head, poured coffee, and acted as if nothing was wrong. I listened in silence until I couldn't hold it anymore. I asked, too casually, how her meeting at Morrison's office had gone. Her smile froze for the briefest second before she laughed it off. Oh, that we decided to move the meeting to Vincenzo's. More relaxed for negotiations. My chest tightened. She had an answer for everything, smooth and ready, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of panic. And then her phone buzzed on the counter. She reached for it too quickly, but I was faster. "I'll get it," I said, my voice calm. She protested, but by then I had already seen the screen. A message from a contact saved simply as D. Red Heart. My world tilted as I read the words aloud in my head. Last night was incredible. I can't wait to start our new life together. Call me when you can talk freely. My hand shook as I scrolled through the thread. Weeks of messages, each more damning than the last. Plans of divorce. Promises of money. Whispers about a baby. My chest went cold as I read the line that sealed it. If the test is positive, he'll have to pay child support. Our child will have everything they need. I lifted my eyes to Claire. Her face had gone pale. "You're pregnant," I whispered, my throat raw, "and it's his." She tried to speak, stumbling over excuses, but I scrolled further, the truth pouring out in brutal detail. 6 months. 6 months of lies. 6 months of planning to leave me, take half of everything, and build a future with him. My voice grew steady, though it no longer felt like my own. "You don't love me. You love what I gave you, the security, the life. But me? You left me long ago." Her tears came then, hot and desperate, but I felt nothing. The pain was too deep, too complete. I told her to leave. To go to him, or to anyone, but not to be there when I returned. Without another word, I walked upstairs, dressed for work, and left her in the wreckage of what had once been our life. In my car, I dialed Tom. My voice was steel when he answered. "It's worse than we thought. We need to talk." By Monday morning, the truth weighed on me like a lead anchor. I sat in my office, blueprints spread across my desk, but the calculations and numbers blurred into meaningless scribbles. My mind replayed her messages again and again, the baby, the divorce, the promises she made to him. Every detail cut deeper. When Tom arrived, his expression was grim, but steady. He had always been the one who could look at a disaster and pick apart the pieces. I showed him the screenshots I had saved before Claire ripped the phone from my hand. His jaw tightened as he read. "She's pregnant," he muttered. I nodded. "And planning to take half of everything." He sat back, shaking his head slowly. "Mike, you've been living with a stranger." I told him I'd thrown her out, that she had gone to her sister's, or, more likely, to David's mansion. For the first time, I saw hesitation in Tom's eyes, not about what had happened, but about how far this would go. Then his instincts took over. He leaned forward, pulling out a notepad. "We need to act smart. No emotions now, just strategy. Document everything, every excuse, every lie. I'll put her under surveillance, get evidence. And if she tries to claim the child is yours, we'll prove it isn't." That night, I met with Jack as well. His work in crisis management gave him a different angle, public perception, the story that people would believe if this ever came out. "David's reputation is everything," Jack said. "Men like him don't cheat once. They repeat. If we find patterns, other women, other lies, we get leverage." The thought of digging into another man's private life might have once disgusted me, but disgust no longer mattered. David had chosen to destroy my marriage, fair play was long gone. Weeks passed in a blur of double lives. During the day, I was the engineer, quiet and focused, showing no cracks. By night, I sat with Tom and Jack, piecing together evidence like detectives building a case. Surveillance photos of Claire slipping into David's house. Receipts for jewelry worth more than my car. Documents from Jack revealing David's history, 2 divorces, both ending in adultery, both women discarded when they no longer served his hunger for conquest. And then the revelation that twisted everything: David was still married. His wife, Susan, was posting cheerful family photos online, celebrating anniversaries and milestones with no idea her world was about to collapse. Tom's hands shook when he showed me one of those photos. "That's her," he whispered. "That's my sister." My blood went cold. His sister, married to David for 15 years, raising his children, all while he plotted to throw her away for my wife. The room felt smaller, darker. Everything we had been planning suddenly carried a heavier weight. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about his family. About 2 families, ruined by the same man's lies. I expected Tom to walk away then, but instead, his jaw set with steel. "I'm not backing out," he said. "I'm doubling down. But from now on, this isn't just revenge for you. This is war for me, too." That night, alone in my house, I sat in the silence and stared at my phone. Claire's message blinked on the screen: "Missing you. Can we talk? Maybe counseling?" For a brief second, I wanted to believe. To fall into that familiar comfort. But then I remembered the ultrasound she had shown him, the laughter she shared in another man's bed, the words she had written about building a new life without me. I deleted the message and called Tom instead. "It's time your sister knew the truth," I said. His silence stretched on the line, heavy with the cost of what we were about to do. "Finally," he answered, his voice low but certain. "Then we tell her. But once we do, there's no going back." The diner was quiet that evening, the hum of conversation and clinking of dishes just enough to keep our words private. I sat in the corner booth with a cup of untouched coffee, my nerves coiled tight as I waited. Tom stood near the door, pacing like a man preparing for battle. When his sister finally walked in, I understood immediately why the revelation had rattled him so deeply. Susan Morgan carried herself with a quiet confidence, her features sharp and intelligent, her eyes searching. The resemblance to Tom was undeniable, and so was the weight she carried: 15 years of marriage to a man she had no idea was betraying her. She slid into the booth across from me, her voice steady but guarded. "So you're the husband," she said, studying me with the same sharpness her brother possessed. I introduced myself quietly, my words stumbling over the bitterness lodged in my throat. Her question cut straight through the air. "Why are you telling me this now, after weeks of knowing?" I swallowed hard. "Because it isn't just an affair anymore. It's a future he's building with my wife. And it involves destroying both of our families." I slid my phone across the table, letting her see the messages I had captured. Each line, each promise, each betrayal, unfolded in her hands. Her expression hardened with every scroll. When she reached the part about the pregnancy, she set the phone down carefully. "So she's carrying his child," she whispered. I nodded. Susan stared past me for a long time, her face carved from stone. Finally, she let out a bitter laugh. "He told me he was working late, chasing contracts in Pittsburgh. I packed him dinners." I believed every word. Her hand trembled, but her voice remained steady. Tom leaned forward, his tone softer than I'd ever heard it. "Sue, there's more." We looked into his past. The pattern is there: 2 previous wives, both left because of affairs. He's not just a man who made a mistake. He's a predator. He targets women, makes them believe in promises, then discards them when he's bored. Susan didn't flinch. "I know about the first 2 marriages," she admitted. "He told me they failed because his wives couldn't handle his success." I believed him too. Her jaw tightened, and I could see the moment she stopped being his wife and became his enemy. Our anniversary is next week, she said finally, her voice low and controlled. He's throwing a big party. 50 people, catered dinner, flowers, champagne, the whole show. He wants to celebrate 15 years of love. Her lips curled into something between a sneer and a smile. But that's when I'll show him for what he is. Not privately. Not quietly. Publicly. In front of everyone. The plan that unfolded in that booth was both brutal and elegant. Susan would go through with the party exactly as David had planned. She would play the role of the doting wife until the moment came. Claire would be invited under the pretense of being David's consultant, innocently mingling among the guests. Tom would set up surveillance inside the house, cameras, microphones, proof that no one could deny. And then, at the height of the celebration, Susan would pull back the curtain. Every lie, every betrayal, would be exposed in front of friends, family, and business partners. Before she left, Susan fixed me with her piercing gaze. "What do you want out of this?" she asked. My throat tightened, but I answered honestly. Justice. The truth. To make sure everyone sees her for what she really is. She nodded once, then stood. Her composure was frightening in its calmness. "Then we'll give them the truth. All of it." For the first time in weeks, I felt something stir inside me, not peace, not joy, but anticipation. The night of reckoning was coming, and neither Claire nor David would be able to escape it. The night of the anniversary party arrived cloaked in elegance. White flowers, golden accents, champagne flutes glistening under soft lights on the surface, it looked like a celebration of love. Guests laughed, clinked glasses, and admired the stone home, unaware that every moment was being recorded, every word captured. I stood among them, playing my role, offering polite smiles and hollow congratulations, though my heart beat like a drum in my chest. David greeted me with his usual charm, the kind of practiced warmth that could fool anyone. "Good to see you, Michael. How's the engineering business?" he asked. I forced a smile. "Can't complain. Congratulations on 15 years. He grinned, his arm around Susan, never suspecting the storm about to break over his head. When Claire arrived, wearing a black dress that shimmered under the lights, I nearly forgot to breathe. She looked radiant, almost untouchable, moving through the crowd with effortless grace. To the others, she was David's consultant, a professional presence. To me, she was the wife who had gutted me alive with lies. Watching her laugh, charm, and weave her web of deception was almost surreal. For a moment, I wondered if anyone else saw the cracks in her mask, or if only I knew the truth. At 9 o'clock sharp, Susan raised her glass, calling the room to attention. Everyone expected a toast to love, to endurance, to the storybook marriage they all admired. But instead of lifting her glass, she picked up a tablet. Her voice was calm, steady, almost too composed. "Marriage," she began, "is about trust. It's about honesty, commitment, and the promises we make to each other. When those promises are broken, everyone deserves to know the truth." The crowd shifted uneasily as the large screen flickered to life behind her. And then, the room fell silent. On the screen was David, in his own kitchen, holding Claire in his arms. Their voices were clear, their laughter unmistakable. "I love you," he said to her. She smiled and showed him ultrasound pictures, their whispered plans echoing like gunshots in the stunned silence of the party. Gasps spread through the room as David's lies unfolded in vivid detail. His business partners, his friends, even his children, everyone saw him for what he was. Claire's face went pale, her confidence evaporating as she realized she was trapped, every exit blocked by shame. Susan's voice cut through the silence. David has been lying to me, to our children, and to all of you. For 6 months, he's been planning to leave this family for another woman, my so-called friend, Claire Harrison. Tonight, you see them both for who they truly are. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. And then it shattered, guests whispering, some glaring at David, others shaking their heads. His teenage son demanded, "Is it true, Dad?" His daughter sobbed openly. David stammered, reaching for excuses, but Susan's final blow was merciless. "I've already filed for divorce. The papers were delivered this afternoon." Claire tried to salvage something, her voice trembling. "Michael, please. I can explain." I stepped forward, my eyes fixed on her, my hands steady for the first time in weeks. "Explain what?" "That you've been planning this for 6 months. That you're carrying his child. That you were ready to strip me of everything I worked for." I handed her the folder I had prepared: divorce papers, documentation of adultery, evidence of every betrayal. Her face crumbled as she realized the truth. Her game was over. David, humiliated and cornered, could offer her nothing but a ruined name and a collapsing empire. 3 months later, I sat in a coffee shop far from home, reviewing blueprints for a new project. The divorce was final. Claire walked away with almost nothing, her lies exposed for all to see. David's empire was collapsing, contracts lost, reputation destroyed, his name synonymous with scandal. Susan had taken everything that mattered and was rebuilding her life with her children, stronger than before. And me? For the first time, I felt free. Snow fell softly outside the window, blanketing the city in white. Across from me sat Emily, a project manager from the firm I joined, a woman with kind eyes and an honest smile. We talked about work, about trust, about beginnings. And as her laughter warmed the space between us, I realized something I hadn't understood until that moment. The best revenge wasn't destruction. It was rebuilding. It was creating a life so strong, so true, that betrayal had no place in it. Claire and David had written their own downfall. I was writing a new story, one built on solid foundations, the kind that no storm could ever bring down.
Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, shocked you, or simply made you think, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment, your thoughts, your story, your truth. Subscribe for more raw, real, and unforgettable confessions. And if this story made you feel seen, share it. Someone else might need to hear it too. You're not alone here. This channel is a safe space for those who've been betrayed, broken, and rebuilt.